Hello and a very warm welcome to ET Studios, ETHR World and Coursera. I'm Divina Lasson and today we bring you an insightful panel discussion on empower your talent to power your business. Now, as businesses navigate rapid technological shifts as well as evolving workforce expectations, the ability to upskill and reskill employees has become a critical differentiator. A recent workplace learning report has revealed that 94% of employees would stay longer at a company that invests in their learning and development. Yet, traditional training methods do often fail to deliver personalized, high impact learning experiences that align with both employee aspirations as well as business goals. So, how can organizations keep up with the need of the hour? To explore these questions, we have an esteemed panel of experts with us today. Joining us, Sudeep Dev, SVP and CHRO, Volvo Eicher; Dharm Rakshit, Head HR, Hero Motocorp; Dimple Kaloya, Head Human Resources, Global Service Centers, India and Group Functions, GSC, HTC's HSBC; and Arushi Agarwal, Head of Coursera for Business India. Right, very warm welcome to ET Studios. Thank you all for joining us today. Such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you. And we're here, of course, to talk about a very important and interesting topic about how empowering your talent equals empowering the business, empowering the workforce, empowering the workplace. Can you all start by giving us a little bit of context, a little bit of background information on how you see talent development directly impacting the business as it develops over the years? Would you like to start, Steve?
Yeah, I think most important how we how we breed our own internal talent. This is very very important. And as in Volvo Eicher, we always recruit a good number of the young talent from the campuses, and we this talent are ready for the future ready organization. And our core philosophy is breeding the talent rather than fishing the talent from the outside. And this is the one core philosophy which we follow in our organization, and it's paying us in a very good way.
Thank you. Dharam, let's get you in on this. So, how do you see talent development impacting the workforce? And also, how do you see businesses staying ahead of the curve for all the changes that are coming ahead?
So if you see this thing, very interesting way we are evolving. And why it is interesting way, I am telling that. Because one side you have the technological disruptions, there you see this thing, the traditional organizations, new age organizations are also making inroads. So right now the talents, if you find they start making a segmentation, I find this thing a very interesting way it has evolved. Gen Z, completely technologically enabled kind of the generation, where the older generation, because normally the legacy organization work with the four generations of organizations. The Gen X, Gen Y, still they are in that very age where the technology, they have not adopted much the technology, and they are, I don't tell that they are the resistance to change, but they are adopting it slowly. So in the given context, if the organization has to contextualize the entire thing and how we actually do the talent segmentation, and we also look that futuristic organization where this talent is going to fit in the future fit kind of. I find that couple of the things organizations are already doing, but that needs to be intensified. So more and more technological advancement within the organizations, but within the organization, when you are bringing those kind of things, you need to have a change management process. People should embrace it, the technology, not as a enemy, but as an enabler. Uh, just now we were having a discussion where the Sumit was also a part, and someone was just mentioning about how the chat bot is training the human. I first just realized if a thing that are we going to lose the touch of the human being because human to one connect. Okay, that is also becoming important. So considering all the factors, one way organization need to understand what are my vision for the next 10 years, what are the technological advancements which are going to happen, how I am going to embrace and make my entire ecosystem in such a manner that people have the push factor that I need to adopt. Okay, and it should not be look like this thing that apprehension rather than the acceptance. Okay, last but not least, there's a very important way I realize this thing that one should not lose the human touch
Yes,
while we
absolutely.
are discussing about the technology and other
Absolutely.
kind of a
Yes.
thing, because ultimately it is a human being who is going to make the magic, not the machines.
Yes, yes. Do you see this as a big threat factor, though? Losing the human touch? Is it something that you're already seeing happening
There are
in
two kind of things. So
organizations?
one is school of thought, blindly following the technology, and they're missing the human aspect. Okay. Second school of thought is still thinking that how we can create the balance, and that is very important. Where the balance has to be created, and how you are going to create the balance, because ultimately you can't beat the human intelligence by artificial intelligence. Okay, and that's why I find this the thing, the organizations which are, because the new age organizations which are coming with all kind of a technology, they are bombarding us with the technology, and they're talking about the chatbot, humanoids, and every kind of a things. Okay, are we going into the age where the robots are really going to rule us, or we are going to have a age where the something like, I think that still the human supremacy is there. So I realized this thing. My daughters, when they were young, they used to watch the Nobita, okay, Doraemon, and I find the thing, what they were actually witnessing, the robots were actually controlling, but still the wisdom of the Nobita and the wisdom of the Sunio and the Jian, that was actually better than the wisdom of the Doraemon.
True. Yes.
And we should not forget that very aspect.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you for that very vivid example. It paints the picture so clearly. Dimple, let's get you in on this.
Look, I think bots are not going to rule humans. Let's be very clear on that.
Yes.
Let's try and understand what's going on today, right? So there is a need to have skill-based orientation. However, skills become a commodity more, right? There is a war for talent, but we are also looking at talent as a proxy for resources sometimes. So most organizations need to look at entrepreneurial talent mindset creation in many ways, and we're not necessarily looking at all of it in a rounded way. We're looking at resources as a singular way, we're looking at skills as a singular way, and then we're looking at talent sometimes through talent programs and things like that. A lot of discrete organizations today are focused on skills by having a very rounded view on how skills need to come together. They're going back to really basics on this, which is driving skills through doing a really good handshake with technology. So technology today is a force multiplier, according to me, as opposed to anything else. It's an area which can boost and boom our skill portfolio, support our colleagues and employees in a really big way. And we need to be able to take full advantage of it in the years to come. If I look at the horizon for the next 5 to 10 years, as in most organizations today don't even know how many job descriptions they have, for example. They don't necessarily know what is the skill taxonomy that is sitting within their organization. How many people are really doing the kind of skills that are required for today and tomorrow. And that is the gap that needs to be filled. So one of the things that I keep sharing within our organization and elsewhere as well is that current skill assessment of where you stand today and how does that marry to the talent or the rounded talent that you need for your future are both critical paths to crafting that roadway and pathway for every organization going out there. We in our own way are doing some similar things in trying to identify our current skill gaps. What are our skill clusters? Where do we take our skill clusters from today to tomorrow? How do you build agility and nimble work environment so that your skill clusters can continue to grow and be redeployed and be reskilled? And there is a huge need for the human engagement with the bot, with the technology, with AI, with Gen AI, etc. But there's also a huge need for humans to have the kind of intelligence that they currently have and apply that continuously. What is definitely changing, and we should all acknowledge that we're currently in the fourth industrial revolution, as they call it, right? When our parents were working, there was still a revolution going on. Computers were getting introduced. So skill revolution is a thing that will continue. It comes every 10 to 12 years. The compounding effect of that is what we will all feel, and we need to make sure that the generations today and the generations tomorrow are ready to be taking learning as a continuum in their everyday. I graduated early in 2000. Have I done more studies beyond that? Do I look at learning and skill as an everyday thing as part of my job? What are the specific skills that I'm learning on to continue to enhance my skill as an HR practitioner. These are things that are required for every person on the ground. So, once you're doing your master's or postgrads or graduation, how do you continue to improve those areas as an individual are important facets to building an organizational ecosystem where you can have that enterprise talent mindset getting through. I'd leave with one last thing, which is today most organizations need an abundance mindset and not a scarcity mindset. There's a lot of competition sometimes, even at an individual level or within teams, for example. When you have an abundance mindset on building skills, you have that more at an individual level, at a management level, as well as eventually you have an outcome that will be received at an organization level. And I think those are the things, if we're able to embed in the DNA of the organization, you would be able to be in a better place because you will have the skill and wherewithal, let's say, to potentially move forward beyond the 5 years as well.
Absolutely wonderful. Such great points there. Just really quickly, so what does it take to develop this abundance mindset? What's the root of that? Where does it start from, according to you?
It's not a magic bullet, let's be honest. It's not a silver bullet. It's about, like I said, going back to basics in some places, which is, what is your skill taxonomy for your organization? What kind of job profiles, roles do you have today? How does it all hang together? Like, do you have an architecture that hangs it all together that tells you that you have skill clusters here, you have roles which are sitting in those skill clusters, you have bands, which is your org hierarchy sitting in those skill clusters. How does then learning tie into it, which means what are the skill programs available for those skill clusters so that and how commoditized it is at a self-service level, because you can't just inject it through constant physical learning programs. You have to have a self-service model, which basically means that employees should be able to create that need for themselves at the point of need, as opposed to wanting to put an email out or create a demand for it. There should be an enforced demand by the DNA of the organization, where you're asking for these things automatically at the point of doing things as much as possible. So it may sound complex, but if you start to look at it, it becomes really simple, and you break it down to get in that direction.
Absolutely. Very self-generated and
Absolutely,
self-motivated
yeah. As in,
process.
it is innate in the individual to drive
Yes.
learning for themselves, and that's what I'm saying. That you need to bring it to the DNA of the organization. That learning and skill building becomes part of my own responsibility, as I would have done when I was doing my graduation or post-graduation or masters or whatever it is that I was endeavoring to do a couple of years ago or many years ago, so that I have that continuum going on in me to learn. And that's one thing that we need to be able to train our kids of tomorrow so that they're able to, progress
Yeah,
appropriately.
absolutely wonderful. Thank you. We're going to circle back to a lot of your points.
Thank you.
Arushi, of course, your perspective here as well on how development of the workforce equals development of the business, but you will come in, of course, with a very different perspective because you work with a variety of organizations and, of course, a lot of information on how the tech can reinforce all of this, support all of this. We're talking a lot about the human angle here. So how can the two really blend together to ensure the best possible outcome?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it was really interesting to hear from all the leaders and all the diverse views of what we hear from the society at large, right? Where technology can be considered a villain, which we know it's not. And we know that it can be a force multiplier. So, maybe I'll talk about an example which one of our very revered authors on Coursera, Dr. Barbara Oakley, said to me last year. So, we were talking to her about artificial intelligence and how there are skeptics and people are worried that, it's going to really take away the way the human DNA is. And she said that many, many years ago, when writing was introduced, at that time, memory experts said that writing will lead to human memory not being as sharp. And they were not wrong. It's true that if you write something, you're not going to be able to memorize it and remember. How many of us even remember phone numbers these days versus many years ago when we had to actually dial those phone numbers? So this is the truth. But at the same time, is this leading to a positive impact overall in terms of productivity? And then actually helping us further the causes that all the organizations are taking, right? So I think fundamentally that is what we need to understand technology does, which is help humans do those elevated tasks that only they can do, and the automated tasks that technology can take care of. So I think that is kind of where we are getting to on digital, on technology, on AI, and all of these things. And at Coursera, what we've seen is uh, while the technology wave is something everyone understands and accepts, not everyone can harness the power of their technology investment if their people are not able to have the skills to be able to do it. So many job roles that are there today is not something that was formally taught to the ones who are in the workforce. So, it becomes very important for them to have these skills. But more importantly, rather than there being just a depth of skills for each individual, we are seeing there to be either a T shape or a V shape sort of a skill expectation where there is depth in certain areas, but there is also some surface level or mid level areas of skill across various types of roles. So I think that is where I'm seeing a lot of investment going, and organizations that are able to have agile workforces that can move from one to the other task, be able to cover a broad coverage, are actually doing a fantastic job of really making this progress. And really we are probably only 1% done in terms of what can be
True,
done
true.
today.
Absolutely. Just at the beginning of the journey. And it's so interesting what you've said about agility. This is something that's come through from a lot of the panelists as well. So, Deep, how would you say that organizations can really ensure that this is also part of the DNA? The human need, be it the marketplace or internally within the organization, is constantly changing. The role of technology, of course, is accelerating that. So, what does it take for an organization to fundamentally ensure that agility is there?
So first of all, we need to see how we are using AI, the solving the human problem. But it should be have the right kind of, embedded with the technology plus human touch. And this is very important that for example, every organization is using chatbot, and chatbot give a answer which we have trained for the different questions. But how we can make chatbot more emotional intelligence, most it should be trained with the most ethical way of answering, and it gives a lot of sense that what type of questions employee are asking, and we can revisit all those our HR policies. Are we catching those need of the organization or not? Most of the organization now we are having a multi-generation workforce. We have a Gen Z, we have a Gen Y, we have a baby boomer, and their aspiration, their expectation is entirely different. Today, Gen Z's expectation from the organization is entirely different from the Gen Y or the baby boomer. And first of all, we need to train our manager how to meet those expectations of the Gen Z, and meet those requirements. In my organization, when we have recruited a young talent, my Gen Z population is more than 40%, and I need to revisit the entire policies framework that should basically meet the requirement of the Gen Z. And we should also provide the long term career. How? Because they are looking for the span of 3 year 5 year maximum. But in most of my CXOs, they have grown from the either as a GT or as a management trainee. When I address them and we show that these are the role model, they joined as a management trainee or as a graduate engineer trainee, and they rose up to the level of the CXO. And they asked me one question, sir, how long it takes? I said minimum 20 years. But they always tell me, sir, tell me, how we can reach this journey in the 10 to 15 years. So I need to revisit my entire talent management process, how we can give a fast track, career movement to this young talent. And this is one thing which we are doing very consciously.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, talent training, of course, is really at the heart of what we are talking about here today, ultimately. Dharm, in your experience, first of all, what works when it comes to talent training? And of course, we can't have this conversation without talking about AI. How do you see AI empowering this process and not just making it kind of an automation, right? So that there's certain content that the employees are consuming, but how does AI really add value to the entire process, if at all, in your experience?
So you see this thing, a couple of the aspects of the generative AI. Okay. What is the purpose of this tool? Purpose is to empower and democratize the learning, or purpose is to just to automate your work processes. Okay. If you are actually utilizing for both the purposes, your processes are different. because your asks are different. So suppose that you are using the generative AI for the continuous or lifelong learning, what he was mentioning, Dimple was mentioning about, this is the lifelong learning, democratization of the learning and the very targeted learning. So for example, I don't require, because previously what was happening, the generative way the entire training was being imparted, learning and development opportunity being imparted. And whether you talk about the T-shaped or the V-shaped, okay? And in that way context, you find this thing, I don't require, but my manager feel this way thing. But by the application of this generative AI, I can know this thing, what are my targeted learning opportunities and how I can learn those very aspects. So you are not even upgrading the skills of the person, but you are also making him the future fit. Okay, that is the one aspect. Second aspect, he was talking about very interesting, a chatbot. Chatbot is basically to take away from the mundane nature of the job, repetitive nature of the job, where the lower level of the staffs, which are not much skills are required, there you can have those kind of applications. Interesting piece, what I find the thing in the assembly line, particularly if you see this thing, and he echo with me, where robotic arms are working with you. So how you are going to create a human and the machine together, okay? And no wonder after certain period of time, then the humanoids are also working along with you. Okay, and I think a couple of the news channels have already experimented when the weather reports comes and some humanoids come appears on the screen. So we need to find for what purpose we are utilizing. Are we going to upgrade the skills of my people so that they remain future fit? Or I am going to take away to improve my efficiency by utilizing this technology for the purpose of doing away the mundane and repetitive nature of the job so that my human beings become much and more intelligent to do the higher level of job. I was listening to him and the job description support that. If you want to create a job description, very interestingly, you just go on the chat GPT, put the certain prompt engineering, and then you find the thing that the entire job descriptions are being written. So one emerging skills, what I find is the thing, and everybody should learn this thing, the prompt engineering. That what is the right question you are asking from AI. But there is a flip side also. And the flip side, like I think, is sometimes the AI also make the error. And we have seen many of the kind of the errors which the AI actually gives you the different answers, what you are looking for, and that may lead to the fiasco. So we need to cognizant of the fact, while we are learning, at the same time machine is also learning. And what the algo you are going to design, that is the output actually dependent upon that kind of things.
Thank you. Dimple, I'd love to get you in on this again. How is AI empowering the talent, skilling, upskilling process? Are there any big challenges that you're facing, solutions you might have come up with along the way as well?
Look, we're in a very early stage on AI. There's a lot of pilots going on everywhere. I don't think there's a lot of pilots that have turned into production yet. There's a lot of testing going on in terms of things that it can do. How we can enable as an employees we've spoken about. We spoke about agility earlier, right? Like agility is typically, what is agility? Agility is basically creating an environment of failing fast and failing frequently, right? And creating that environment is going to be an important part for employees to do that handshake with technology. How technology can help? If you put a question to ChatGPT, it should give you an answer. The thing that you need in the colleague is how easy or how curious the person is to be able to create better questions as well. I was getting one-on-one training from someone on Gen AI, and I asked them, what is the role of the person who's developing it? And he said, there's a role called a prompt engineer. Okay? And the prompt engineer's job is basically to prompt the AI for the right kind of questions. So the ability to ask clear questions is going to be a very, very important. And, thinking logically, the aptitude of adaptiveness, the aptitude of creativity will give you this ability to ask appropriate questions. Today, we have a prompt engineer that is doing it because you probably need some technological advancement or technology need in terms of doing that kind of interaction and engagement. In years to come, that will further diminish because technology will evolve itself, and hence the idea of colleagues wanting to do the conversation and engagement with technology is going to be key. How you ask questions, what you understand contextually about the ecosystem you're sitting in, how much do you understand logically about the business you're working in, what are the kind of problems you're facing, so that you can get technology to help you enable a better answer, and then you work on it with your creative stealth to move forward in the decision making associated with it. Look, one of the best thing about us being human beings is that we can make better decisions. We can take subjective calls on things that a technology will only take based on objectivity on data. But we can take subjective calls based on the right kind of understanding and aptitude of logic as well as context. And I think that is going to be the scorecard and the currency that all our colleagues need to move forward with and think more about in terms of progressing in that handshake with technology.
Absolutely. The human touch is indispensable.
It is,
no matter what
absolutely.
it
Like I
is.
said, robots are not going to take our jobs. They will enable better
That
jobs.
is a big fear, though, right? That AI will come in and make human jobs and human requirement obsolete. So that's also something that the
So
workforce
it's
is
also
grappling
about
with.
keeping the human intelligence at the challenging front on it with technology, right? We are eventually the ones who are building the technology. Yes, there will be jobs that will move. I don't think there will be jobs that will go away. You will have displacement and reskilling and redeployment. Again, think of we're sitting in Delhi. There was a thing called MTNL number of years ago, which was the Mahanagar Telephone Nigam. A lot of our people from the 1980s, 70s used to work in it. We don't have BSNL or MTNL jobs anymore, right? You don't have a job of an operator anymore. But you have a job of a voice executive that is dealing with customer queries. Today, that is getting displaced a bit with a chatbot, right? You talk to your banking app, there is the chatbot that first talks to you. You talk to the Amazon app, the chatbot talks to you. But if you do want a human interaction or an engagement, you will need to get it to give you a call back, which is through a customer service center. So there is the evolution of that, and that will continue to be there. But what is going to be important is that the person who was an operator before, are they ready to take the challenge to learn computers? Are they ready to take the challenge to learn how you engage with the bot? Are they being defensive about the fact that, oh my God, I'm not going to do this? And I think that's the learning continuum that we need to make sure that our colleagues absolutely understand. You can learn a lot from the new generation also with it, because they come with the mindset of agility and digital acumen. They understand social media much more than some of us do. So it's really important to learn a bit more through their lens, because they're definitely ready to take on the challenge that is coming, that is oncoming on technology, and we should all embrace it.
We must. Yes.
Absolutely.
Arushi, this is a wonderful time for you to come in because we've heard so much from our panelists. And I know there are multiple solutions that Coursera offers to support all of this, right? To support the hand in hand learning, get the agility process as well going, and of course, ultimately to keep the talent development, skilling, upskilling to the brink of what's new in the industry. So, how does Coursera step in to support the entire process end to end?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as many people know already, Coursera was founded by two Stanford AI professors in 2012, and they had more than 20 years of AI experience under their belt at that time. So you can just imagine, how exciting it is for us to be able to actually talk about this at scale. So I think we heard a very interesting point on use cases, and that's exactly what we have attempted to do, where we have said there are three sets of personas or customers that we are looking to work for to be able to get the power of AI to skilling and learning. So at the highest level, if we look at the organizational context, what we have done is we have said there are the content expertise and the hallucination is not a problem on Coursera, right? Because it's not going to the World Wide Web. But how do you parse through hours and hours and hours of videos and lectures and material to decide what is relevant for a particular set of audience? So for that, we've developed a tool called Course Builder, where through giving inputs, which is natural language English inputs, it'll actually process all of what we have and create a custom course or a custom learning journey in addition to the organizational context, and create quizzes and create, all of the environment which is needed to actually succeed for those cohorts. So the first is each organization's skill areas and whatever is the rubric is actually being met versus this is on the shelf and you must accept this. So I think this is kind of the first thing that we've developed as a use case and it's a click of a button that people can use it with. The second is learners have been hungry for personalization and they want everything in real time, right? We spoke about how attention spans are a lot lower. They're expecting things in 3 years, but they're also expecting things in the same minute. If a website takes an additional second to buffer, it's the end of the world, right? So the expectation of real time input. So what we've done is we've developed Coursera Coach, which is an AI personal dialogue assistant where you can ask, can you give me a summary of this course? Can you remind me what I learned last week? How does this apply to my job role? I want to go into a vendor negotiation tomorrow. What are the areas that we should discuss so that it's a win-win situation? Let's do a case study together on the basis of the knowledge which is there. So, this is the second case, which is for the learner themselves. And then I would love to also talk about the third one, where today, English being the typical medium of high quality learning availability, anyone who's not able to consume in that language is forced to go to a quality which may not be at the same level. But AI has given us the power of machine translations where both text as well as auto dubbing is something which is being done where the same quality is actually available to all sorts of learners. So for example, in the auto space, there is a lot of line workers who may not have the ability to consume content in a proper English language. But with the support of the text in Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, you name it, all of the languages which are available, can they actually make progress and be able to reach a place in their career that they hadn't so far? So these are the three use cases that we've really invested in, and it's live. And we are so happy to actually be able to do this at scale and, continue on the journey from there.
Wonderful. What has been the response so far? Because as you said, you're addressing so many of the big challenge areas, right? Geographical language being a big barrier. So how has been the response of your partners?
It's been overwhelming. And I think what people enjoy is when they tell you a problem and you are actually able to give them a solution versus a theoretical framework of how it can be solved, right? I think now people have gone beyond the theory and the possibilities. Now they really want to see things in action. So, when we hear some of the use case requirements and are able to show that this is how it can be done, it's such a positive response. And from there, since you asked about the response, I'll maybe talk a little bit about what we're going to release, where we're saying it's going to be a Socrates kind of a dialogue and not just a query mechanism where you enter, let's say, that this is my annual report. And you need to then talk about how do I develop my next 5-year plan. Let's have a dialogue about it versus, just some sort of a answer which I'm getting for a particular question. So the idea is AI becomes your thought partner beyond just becoming something where you're extracting data from available LLMs. So, the response has been such that we are continuing to develop the product more and more. And, the beauty of this is that the way people are skilled, only then technology can be harnessed. Otherwise, it can't be. So it's kind of a meeting of both the objectives.
Wonderful. Very exciting. Lots to look forward to in the pipeline. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, I'd love to get each of your inputs now that we've discussed the length and breadth, really, of what technology means to talent development. How do organizations ensure that talent development still keeps at the central pillar? Creativity, decision making, the very human elements, like everyone has mentioned here, that are an absolute must. So, again, the balance of technology, but making sure that the human elements are very much alive.
I think the most important that how we can balance technology and human touch. And I will tell you my experience that we put up a new plant in central India, and that was 100% IoT and Industry 4.0 enabled. My operator need not to go back to the old regime of way of the worker were doing the operation. It's 100% automated, and we trained them how we have to bring more productivity through this automation, as well as we ensure the safety and productivity of the employee. So that way it is a right kind of blend which we are trying to create. And second thing, that we should have the industry academia partnership also. How we can be more aligned with the new technology, how we can be more aligned with the change which is happening in the industry, and how we can train them to upskilling the from current level. And these are the few things. And most importantly, how we can bring the organization more in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness. And we put up a plant, as I said, in central India, and one line dedicated for the entire women. The women are managing the entire show of production, quality, supply chain, and everything. So this is one way, good thing. It brings a lot of creativity, innovations, and belongingness. So this is one good thing which we are trying to practicing, and it's really paying us, in a good way.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Tar?
I would like to start with the anecdote kind of things, and a very interesting. Somewhere they saw roaming on the WhatsApp. A person went on the social media and just googled the kind of thing. What is the price of, out of curiosity, out of what is the price of a helicopter? And after that, he started getting only advertisement about the luxury kind of things. Okay, so being coming from a middle class family, he thought the thing, okay, what's happening? So next day he went and googled, where can I get repaired my shoes? And next day, all the kind of the relevant ads were started coming. Okay, so the question here is the using of the AI or the this kind of a technology, how judiciously you are utilizing it. This is very, very important, because we should not be swayed over by so many kind of things are happening. So I should be the like the thing being in the name of so under inverted comma agility. I need to adopt every kind of a thing. What is relevant for your organization? Choose it judiciously. Second thing, what your people are, what kind of experience your people need. Provide that kind of solution. Third important factor I always see is the thing that the democratization of the learning, lifelong learning, very targeted learning kind of things. But with all humility, there has to be ethics. Okay? Although the Coursera is there, but my question is like a thing, what happened to Guru Shishya Parampara? Okay? So Guru was always something like Coursera is taking the role of a Guru, and I am being a Shishya when I am going like a thing. But my human connect, that is missing. And somewhere that should not miss. So I always prefer that this all sort of things should be my enabler rather than it should be a means, not the end of the entire kind of thing, because that is also important. Right? Last but not least, human talent, it is very difficult to actually map because their potentials are so far not has been completely be tapped. Okay, so we are only tapping up to a certain level of the kind of things what we have tapped so far. So rely upon this one, because uh, even though I am, because we are still evolving the AI, generative AI, or those kind of things, but ultimately the way you are training your machine and who are training your machine, the some the prompt engineers or someone who are training the writing all the algorithms, they are the human beings. Okay, and that's important. So we need to create a balance and use a judicious
Yes.
way
Yes.
in that thing.
Arushi, would you like to comment on this? I think it's a great
Yeah,
time
absolutely. And given how excited I am about AI, right? Like these are questions that I read about, and the most interesting thing which uh, is accepted by all experts is artificial intelligence is not equal to artificial general intelligence. So what is AGI is where human intelligence can be matched, right? So this is a concept which is agreed and accepted by everybody, that artificial intelligence is nowhere close to where human intelligence is. That is the concept of artificial general intelligence, which we haven't reached and we probably never will, because humans will keep progressing further and further from there. So we are also very, very firm believer of the human augmentation is the only way in which this can happen. I'll give a very simple example, right? The tool and the availability and the technology is probably something that everyone can access. It is not that it is only available to one or the other, especially now that LLMs are so pervasive. But the way it is being harnessed is a function of the prompting, which is a function of the creativity. Only the prompts that you enter is how good you're going to get as an answer, because the input is all of it there. And the second is the only output that you will get is something that it has been trained on from a past concept. It is not going to be able to come up with a new idea which has never been thought of, which can only come through humans. So I think this is something that we truly believe in when we have found, and experts have said this, which is why this conversation is so much more interesting, right? Because otherwise organizations can just take bots that we have discussed and not have humans in the equation at all. So I think that makes it so important, and it's been 2-3 years now, so there isn't any worry or scaredness that the human touch needs to go away. In fact, the World Economic Forum has said creativity is one of the highest skills that is in demand, because that is something that AI and technology cannot reach and cannot do. So I think we're in a world where we're really kind of coming together versus being at two different ends. And I think that is what is exciting to see, that we can now move forward without there being two very diverse school of thoughts.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Dimple, let's get your closing comments again. How does talent development in the organization really make sure, as Arushi and everyone is discussing, that the creativity is at the center of the strategy?
So look, if you're an organization, you should look to have a continuum on learning, focus on learning, create an ecosystem on learning, right? Focus on building skill clusters, make sure there is enough systems, technologies, infrastructure available for colleagues to come together to derive outcomes which are adding value to the bottom line, top line, etc. If you're an individual, if you're a colleague, if you're looking to expand your horizons, you're coming out of university or you're doing an adult learning, mid-year, mid-career change, etc. You need to look at building and bolstering your skills. When you talk about skills such as problem solving, creativity, solutionizing, these are the things that will be required today and tomorrow. You obviously have to have technical skills. We spoke about T models and V models. I continue to talk about, have 3 key skills that you're popularly known for, right? Have 3 key things that are technically strong, your, 3 vertical skills and 3 horizontal skills, which are important. Communication, very important, right? Like we spoke about English as a language that is binding this AI universe with all of us, but getting the articulation right of the story that you need to tell eventually to be able to make the right decision are also critical skills. So if you are an individual, bolster these things in yourself so that you can really create a differentiator, and then find your passion, right? Like whatever area you're focused in. You like media, get into it. You like, education, auto industry, you like ITES, but those are the things that you need to really invest in, and that's a journey that you need to start to build. Last thing I would say is embrace technology. It's a force multiplier. Use it for the betterment of yourself, your organization, for everyone around you, and let's not be afraid of it.
Yes. Absolutely wonderful. What a wonderful note to end on. Thank you so much to all the panelists. You've shared so much of your insights, your personal experiences very candidly. So thank you for being here and sharing all your knowledge. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, everyone.